Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking one of the absolute most fascinating developments happening in the tech world right now. We're looking at why a car company is secretly building some of the most advanced AI silicon on the planet. It's a truly epic chip-building exercise, and we're going to break the whole thing down for you step by step. So let's just dive right into this mystery. If you've been reading the headlines lately, you might actually think Tesla is coming straight for Nvidia's throat, or maybe that Nvidia is just going to destroy everyone. But you know what? The truth is way more complicated than that, because the answer to why Tesla is doing this actually starts right in your driveway. But as we're going to see, it literally ends up floating in outer space.
Section 1. The Nvidia Monopoly. 75%. I mean, wow. That staggering gross margin really shows how Nvidia practically prints money right now. In a single quarter, they brought in almost $50 billion in cash flow, growing their revenue by 85% year over year. They can basically charge whatever they want, and that's because virtually every single major AI model today was trained on their hardware.
But here's the thing. The hardware, that's really only half the story. Competitors like AMD and Intel have tried so hard to build rival chips, but they completely failed to break Nvidia's grip on the market. And why is that? Well, because the hardware was never actually the hardest part. Nvidia's real genius was combining incredibly powerful processors with an absolutely unbreakable software ecosystem.
And that massive software advantage is called CUDA. It's essentially the critical software toolkit that lets developers talk to Nvidia's chips, and it's been acting as the standard operating system for AI labs for nearly 20 years now. Nvidia actually gave this software away to schools for free to make sure it became the industry standard for first-time users. They created an ecosystem that's just incredibly difficult for any competitor to break into. It's exactly like how Windows became the default operating system for an entire generation of computers.
Section 2. Tesla's radical simplicity.
Enter Tesla's AI5. Now, instead of trying to beat Nvidia at their own game, Tesla took a completely different route. They actually taped out this custom chip in early 2026, which simply means the design phase is completely finished. And their secret sauce? It's an ASIC, or an application-specific integrated circuit. By stripping out all those generic components that most chips have, Tesla created a pure piece of silicon tuned for exactly one job, their own.
The physical contrast here is just staggering. Just think about this for a second. On one side, you have Nvidia's H100. It's a $30,000, 700-watt behemoth that literally requires a liquid-cooled warehouse just to keep from melting down. But on the other side, Tesla's AI5 delivers comparable performance for their specific needs, yet it fits right behind a glove box and sips power off a standard car battery. That translates to roughly 10 times the performance per dollar.
Section 3. The robot plot twist. Okay, so with this revolutionary car chip ready to hit production, you'd naturally assume it's going straight into their cars, right? Well, surprisingly, no. Tesla's older AI4 chips are actually already smart enough to handle driving. So the AI5's very first home will actually be inside their Optimus humanoid robots, as well as their own AI supercomputer. Think about that. A car company built a revolutionary chip, and their #1 priority is shoving it into robots.
So, with these crazy performance gains and a dedicated chip ready to go, we really have to pause and ask the big question. Is Nvidia completely toasted? Does this spell the end for their incredible, dominant run?
Well, not exactly. The crucial difference here comes down to inference versus training. You see, Tesla's AI5 is an inference chip, meaning it runs the AI once it's already been trained. But the heavy lifting of actually building those massive frontier models, that remains entirely on Nvidia's turf. In fact, Tesla is still out there buying hundreds of thousands of Nvidia GPUs, so they aren't getting a divorce today. But make no mistake, this is the foundation of a much, much larger plan.
Section 4. Building the Everything Empire.
It turns out, Elon Musk is quietly collecting the vital pieces of the technology stack, kind of like Thanos collecting Infinity Stones. We're talking cars, robots, massive XAI data centers, rockets, and now custom silicone. He's strategically owning every single layer so that his empire eventually relies on absolutely nobody else. Building their own chip was essentially the final stone.
And they are moving incredibly fast. This aggressive roadmap shows that Tesla definitely isn't stopping at the AI5. The AI6 is slated for 2027 on a newer Samsung process, which will roughly double the computing power. And right after that, AI 6.5, which will be manufactured by TSMC over in Arizona.
They are literally aiming for a fresh, custom chip generation every 9 to 12 months.
But to pull something like this off requires some truly staggering capital. Just to put it in perspective, the entire United States government set aside roughly $53 billion in the CHIPS Act to try and rebuild national manufacturing. Meanwhile, recent filings reveal that just the first phase of the SpaceX and Tesla Terafab facility in Texas sits at $55 billion. Yes, you heard that right. A single private enterprise is outspending the entire U.S. government's flagship initiative. It's wild.
So why spend all that money? Well, because right now, almost every advanced chip on Earth, the brain in your phone, your car, every major data center gets made on one single island, Taiwan. Around 90% of our cutting-edge chips come from there. Moving this massive manufacturing effort to Texas acts as a really vital geopolitical insurance policy for the West against any potential disruptions. If anything happens to Taiwan, the world's tech essentially stops. Tesla and SpaceX are building the muscle to make sure they survive that.
Section 5. Orbital AI Data Centers.
Now, in a recent filing to the FCC, and in some investor documents for their Go public plan, SpaceX estimated their total addressable market for artificial intelligence to be an absolutely unbelievable $26 trillion. To put that massive number into perspective, the entire global economy is around $100 trillion. And here is the real kicker. They plan to capture this $26 trillion market in orbit.
Yep, you heard me. Orbital data centers. SpaceX actually filed for permission to launch up to 1 million satellites. And no, not for the internet, but for floating AI data centers. By launching these into space via their own rockets, they gain some massive advantages. We're talking endless, free, non-stop solar power because up there, the sun never turns off. Plus, there is zero weather interference and infinite scaling potential with total independence from earthly power grids.
The endgame here, no matter how you slice it, is to depend on nobody. Musk designs his own chips, builds them on American soil, launches them on his own rockets, and plans to run them on free sunlight in orbit. No power grid, no earthly landlords, and crucially, absolutely no relying on Nvidia or Taiwan for the most important tech layer of all.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. We are actively watching a company build the capacity to take the most critical technology of our lifetime entirely off-planet. How is human civilization going to change when the world's most advanced AI economy, a literal multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure, operates completely free from earthly constraints floating up in outer space? It's an incredibly fascinating future to consider. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep exploring.